What's up, everybody, and welcome back to Fireside Giants. I'm your host, Anthony Rivardo, joined by my co-host, Alex Wilson. Today, reacting to the offensive line in that preseason Week 2 game. Now, it wasn't the prettiest game. The Houston Texans had their way with the New York Giants. Obviously, a lot of controversy. I wasn't here to give my instant reaction to the game. I was at Fanatics Fest this weekend covering all of the different Giants and Rangers news for ESM and for Fireside Giants. I had an awesome time. Shout out to everybody that I met there. All of you tuning in now, thank you for helping make a special weekend for me at Fanatics Fest. But it was a great time, and unfortunately, one of those days that I was there, I had to watch a little bit of Giants football on my laptop and watch them get beat down. It was ugly, but there was one glaringly positive takeaway that I had from that game and that everybody else did. The offensive line looked great. Carmen Bricelo is the truth so far, right? 2 preseason games in, I think 3 total pressures across those 2 games. It's been awesome pass protection. Now, run blocking, maybe some room for improvement. We'll talk about that. But just in reality, guys, we've been doing this show, Alex, 5 years? Every year, we've talked about how bad the Giants' offensive line is. 5 years running. This year could finally change things. This could be finally the first year on Fireside Giants where we're not complaining about the offensive line being terrible every single week. And it's only preseason. It's still early, so I don't want to get ahead of myself, but just want to react to it and say we are encouraged by what we've seen so far in this preseason and just kind of talk about some of the positive takeaways and negative takeaways that we had from the offensive line performance in preseason Week 2. But before we dive into all that, make sure to leave a like if you enjoy this episode, subscribe to the channel if you're new, ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review. Go and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. But without further ado, Alex, how are you doing today, my friend? And how are you feeling about the offensive line for the New York Giants in preseason Week 2?
I'm doing pretty good, man. Listen, you're looking at this team right now, you're looking at the weaknesses, the strengths, and there's plenty of weaknesses, but one of them is not the offensive line, at least in terms of the context of improvement. As you guys are well aware, and Anthony, you said it best, the last 5 years we've been doing this podcast, the Giants have had the worst offensive line in football most of those years. I didn't think it was possible to suck for that long. I didn't think it was possible to see absolutely zero progress. But one key coaching change has seemed to make a big difference, and that's bringing in Carmen Bricelo from the Raiders. And he brought in Greg Van Roten, and he brought in Jermaine Illuminor. And both of those guys looked pretty damn good against the Houston Texans this past Saturday, especially Jermaine Illuminor. And he combined with Andrew Thomas for 41 combined pass blocking snaps. Zero pressures allowed. We freaking love that. We thought Evan Neal was going to create that dynamic duo. We found it in Jermaine Illuminor. And by the way, a 2-year, $14 million deal. Talk about a steal. He is an above average right tackle, and you're getting that for $7 million per season. That is a really, really cheap price for a player of that. I'm surprised he even took a deal like that. I'm surprised that was all he got. He's a good player, and he's a good locker room dude as well. Like he's a valuable asset for this team. I've been saying this for months, dude. Like this has been one of my key talking points for the better part of 3 months. Jermaine Illuminor has been my starting right tackle for months. People said, "Oh, give Evan Neal a chance." Guys, he's not even in the freaking rotation yet. He's still not playing. To me, he's fighting to be a backup. And that's being optimistic. He needs to prove that he is capable of even being a swing tackle, a backup at right tackle right now. They should be cross-training him at guard. They should be trying to find a spot where he can at least show some progress. He's clearly been humbled. They do not owe him anything. But I'm really excited to see this starting group. And we didn't even have John Runyon in this most recent game. He's still dealing with that shoulder injury. We had a couple other guys. I think Aaron Stinney played some snaps there. Schlotterman came in at center at some point. We had a couple of guys coming in and out of that offensive line, but the starters, minus Runyon, look like a competent unit. And why did they look like a competent unit? Because they played as a cohesive group. They did not play individually. Last year, everybody had a different job. Everybody looked like they had no idea what was going on. Everybody was individual. This year, everybody knows what's going on. Everybody knows how to communicate. Everybody's looking at each other and figuring out, how do I help this person? How do I help that person? If they're running a stunt, where do I go next? Where's my assignment, right? They're looking how to support each other and not how to win on their own. Because when you try to survive on your own as a unit, these are 5 players in the offensive line. There's 5 players in the offensive line. Yes, your tackles a lot of times have to be on an island, but those 3 interior guys are playing as one. They're supposed to be a unit. There's supposed to be synergy there, and we haven't seen that in a long time. The Giants finally showing that synergy, that communication, that chemistry. They're operating as a hive and not as an individual piece. And I think that is a major coaching difference that we've seen. And I've said this 100,000 times. I said it on the podcast 2 days ago. You want to know what the worst part about bad football is? The injuries that come with a lack of discipline. When you play bad football and you make mistakes, injuries tend to happen. Andrew Thomas, missed field goal, chasing down a defensive back, hamstring injury, he's out for weeks. Billy Price getting blown back into the quarterback and snapping Nick Gates' leg in half because he got pushed right into him. Bad football, right? Like, you play good football, you reduce the probability of injury because other people have to compensate. Your body's falling behind you on your legs. You know, it just makes things a lot worse. So, Anthony, looking at this offense, I know you didn't get to catch the whole game, but from what you did see, it looks night and day to me. Like, this looks like this is Daniel Jones. Like, if he ever had a chance to succeed and be a great quarterback, this is going to be it because that offensive line gave him pockets. Like, not just like little tiny amounts of time. He had 2 yards of space around him. That is rare. We have not seen that in a long time as a Giants fan.
Yeah, no, and you mentioned that I didn't get to catch the whole game. You're right, but I saw the entire first half, and I watched the starting offensive line go out there and pass protect for Daniel Jones. Unfortunately, I didn't get to see the second half, didn't get to watch my QB1 Tommy DeVito and behind the offensive line. But in that first half, there were so many positive takeaways, whether you want to talk about the tackles, as you already did, Alex, and just noting how Andrew Thomas and Jermaine Illuminor, they've locked in those starting jobs, obviously. They looked wonderful in pass protection. You're right, there were some very clean, wide open, spacious pockets for Daniel Jones to deliver some passes in. It was excellent. It's exactly what you wanted to see from an offensive line that's been just trying to stabilize for years and years, and it finally seems as though it's doing that. And one player in particular that I came away impressed with was John Michael Schmitz, and this is where I'm going to go against a certain narrative and say that I disagree with the Pro Football Focus grade. They gave him like a 31.3 pass blocking grade. I just watched all of the all-22 snaps that he had in pass protection in this preseason Week 2 game, and I do not see how you can reasonably give what he did a 31.2 grade. He looked good in pass protection to me. Was he perfect? Was all of his fundamentals, completely sound? Is he chasing Kelsey? I'm not saying any of that, but he definitely didn't play this awful 31.3 graded game in my mind. I thought John Michael Schmitz looked good. I thought that he did a good job double teaming. I thought that he just looked like a solid player, and that's what I need to see from him. I just need to see him be a solid player because as a rookie, he was often injured. He was often struggling. We didn't see many games where he was a solid player. Now we have, and I think that was really encouraging for this offensive line to see that it's not just the left tackle who's an all-pro, who we know is going to be great. It's not just the right tackle who we had high hopes for, who we know is going to be a decent player. It's also the center, going into his second season, looking like a better player than he did last year. And Greg Van Roten, a veteran player, played 33 snaps, didn't allow a pressure, looked great. I thought that he played a really solid game at right guard for the Giants, and that's what you want to see. I mean, that's a player that the Giants signed at the end of the training camp period. As soon as preseason was about to begin, they said, okay, we got to bring in a little bit of additional talent for this offensive line. Greg Van Roten stepped in, and he's looked like an immediate starter so far, so you've got to be encouraged by that and really just everything that you saw from the starting unit on the Giants offensive line. And one other thing that I want to note, Alex, this player, brand new to the team, signed within the last 7 days, didn't play a ton of snaps this week, but still did get on the field for, I think, about 15 snaps or so. Jacob Johnson, fullback. He actually only played 8 snaps, and he had 4 run blocking plays. I saw the all-22 on all 4 of those run blocking attempts. The dude was blocking his ass off. The Giants have a real fullback now. That's exciting to me. Like, that's something that I'm really excited about because we were doing the live stream on Wednesday, Alex, Allie, Will, and I. We were talking about why don't the Giants have a fullback? Look at the 49ers. Look at the Ravens. Look at the Dolphins. Those are the top 3 rushing attacks in the NFL last year. What's the common denominator there? There's 2. 1, a lot of pre-snap motion. Number 2, a fullback. Why aren't the Giants using a fullback? Why aren't they using more pre-snap motion? Well, under Brian Dable, all throughout training camp, we saw an abundance of pre-snap motion. We saw way more pre-snap motion than in recent years, so they checked that box. Then they go ahead and they get Carmen Bristolo a fullback. If you didn't know, Carmen Bristolo utilized the fullback heavily in his blocking scheme with the Las Vegas Raiders, so it only made sense for the Giants to bring in the Las Vegas Raiders fullback for him to utilize here with the Giants. And I thought that he looked good. Again, he only had 4 blocking snaps, but he looked good in those snaps. And what I noticed was the Giants were able to run different types of rushing attacks with a fullback in the lineup. So I had some great takeaways from that, Alex. I'm sure you did as well. I'm curious to hear your thoughts. We didn't really react on the channel to the Giants signing a fullback, but what is your reaction to that, what you think it means for the team, and what you saw from him in this first game action that he had with the Giants?
I mean, dude, that guy didn't even know the playbook. He stepped in and made an impact. He had a couple of gorgeous blocks. And Carmen Brasilo's blocking scheme does actually involve some fullback action. He can play a little tight end. He's a decent core special teams player as well. Jacob Johnson's probably making this roster after not having a job for the last couple weeks. Like, he stepped in, made a positive impact, showed his toughness, showed that he can provide those crack blocks. And look, that's what you need. Like, if you want to open up those big running lanes, Eric Gray had a really nice, was it Singletary, one of those two guys, had a really nice run. I think it was Gray, had a nice run because Jacob Johnson opened up a lane inside at the B gap right there, like right at that second level. Bam, opened up that lane. He ran right through it. That's the difference between winning and losing football games sometimes. That extending a drive in a critical moment, fourth quarter, it's second down, there's 1 minute left, the other team has 3 timeouts. You know what I mean? Like, that first down, forcing them to use getting that first right there, forcing them to use a timeout can be the difference between winning and losing a game. So like, every single player and their positive impact does play a big part. But you don't normally just roster a fullback because he plays fullback unless you're Kyle Juszczyk. He just is a freak of nature. You need them to do other things, right? You need to be, utilizing them on special teams heavily, and he does do that very well. So, I think they were planning on just giving him reps during the preseason and just having him be a body. But then he kind of made a nice impact, and they're probably thinking to themselves, like, maybe we actually do need a fullback. Maybe this guy could be a piece on this roster. And the Giants need good players, right? They need guys that step on the football field and do good things. Jacob Johnson looked like he does just that. He steps on the football field and does good things. So, I want to see more of him. I'm sure we'll see plenty in the final preseason game against the Jets. But my reaction to him is, good on him. Like, good job, like, stepping in and making a nice impact there. But I want to get your take on this one last thing about Elijah Chapman's run. I think he hit like 16.5 miles per hour. Dude, 280 pounds of just freight train. Imagine being that running back and looking behind you and seeing that, dude. That is terrifying. I was blown away. This is something we've been talking about for a couple weeks now. How exciting was it for you to see him do that? That hustle play made the team. Like, he made the team off that play. But he also had a nice holding call that was against him. Like, he made an impact in a couple of different ways. So I think he might be our starting defensive tackle alongside Dexter Lawrence. And I'm excited to see a 2024 undrafted free agent who just walked on this team make the team and show really good upside. So we haven't had someone like that in a long time. The Giants may have found a gem there.
No, I think you're right, and he really did have a few impactful plays, and he's had a few impactful plays spanning back into the spring. I remember writing an article on him, Alex. I was on a flight, I think in March, or not March, maybe in May. I think it was in May. I wrote an article about this guy because I was like hearing so much buzz about him at OTAs and rookie minicamp, and I was like, okay, maybe the Giants have something here. So I look him up, and I find out that he's a 280-pound defensive tackle. I'm like, okay, well, that sounds a little bit small. But then you do a little bit more research on him, and you're like, well, this guy's a really good pass rusher at that size. He's very quick off the line of scrimmage. He hustles his ass off, and he's got a lot of strength for an undersized defensive tackle. So now then we get over to training camp. Who do we keep hearing buzz about? Elijah Chapman, nonstop. So we started talking about him a lot on this show and saying how if he does play well in the preseason, he can steal a 53-man job. Now we're talking about if he continues to play this way, he's a starter. So just an awesome rise here from Elijah Chapman, spanning back to the spring all the way till now. We're 2 weeks away from the regular season kicking off. I think we're about 8 days away from cut day. And he's really pushing for it. Like, I love to see it. That hustle play was one of the coolest moments of the preseason so far. It's probably only behind Malik Neighbors' spectacular grabs. But, I mean, you're looking at this kid who just, he doesn't really have a chance when you sign a player like that. An undrafted free agent who's undersized at his position. How does a guy like that make the roster? Hustling. that's the way that you do it. So chasing down a running back, basically running full steam ahead, chasing down a running back as a defensive lineman, showing that you are here and you are taking every single play seriously, playing like you have nothing to lose. Every play could be your last play. That's what you want to see. Reminds me of old school New York Giants football, to be honest. We would have defensive linemen doing this all the time back then. I remember JPP and Justin Tuck, they would chase guys down no matter where they were on the field, right? I love that kind of stuff. It just shows heart. It shows Giants pride. That's the stuff that you want to see. So Elijah Chapman, I'm really excited for him. I'm really happy that he's a player that we have been discussing for so many weeks now, and we're finally starting to see it all just take shape, and it's really fun stuff. It's really exciting. It's what you love about the preseason. And yeah, you're right. I mean, looking at this defensive tackle group, Dexter Lawrence, number one DT, obviously. Who's starting next to him? Is it Raheem Nunez-Roches? Is it Elijah Chapman? Is it Jordan Riley? Nobody has stood out more than Elijah Chapman. And I think that on top of making the 53-man roster as an undrafted rookie, he could be a starter as an undrafted rookie. And that's just impressive. Some guys have it, some guys don't. Elijah Chapman has it. I think he's going to have a successful NFL career, and I'm very excited to see him in this third preseason game and then in the regular season, because I feel very confident that he will be making this final 53-man roster. But Alex, any other minor takeaways or talking points from this game that kind of ties into the trenches here that we've been discussing before we wrap this thing up?
I mean, looking at this team in general, I think that I want to see some more John Michael Schmitz. I wonder if they play any of these guys in the last preseason game, some of these guys that really do need the reps, because JMS did miss a lot of practice. So I think that he should get some opportunities in that final game. I'd like to see a little bit more Greg Van Roten. I think that we've seen enough Jermaine Illuminor. I think that we know he's our right tackle. I think you keep him healthy for that last one. I'd like to see some more. If John Runyon's healthy, I think he should get some action. Just get a little bit of game experience under his belt. And, obviously Stinney will get some action as a backup. Thomas will be on the bench for sure. I'd like to see a little bit more Theo Johnson. I'd like to see Tommy DeVito he'll probably play most of that game in Drew Lock if he's healthy. A little more Theo Johnson as a rookie. He's got to get more experience. I think that's essential. But for the most part, Eric Gray, we'll see if Tyrone Tracy comes back this upcoming week. I don't think they'll play him in the last game. I think that ankle sprain, he was running, doing some minor stuff, but they probably want to give him a lot more time. He'll probably be ready for week 1. But I like what I see from Eric Gray, man. He's been pretty impressive. Really big step forward he's taken. You know what I have to say? I think a lot of these running backs thought to themselves, we're not going to replace Saquon Barkley. Like, we can't compete with Saquon Barkley, but they can compete with Devin Singletary. You know what I mean? I like Singletary. He's a good player. But Eric Gray and Tyrone Tracy can steal reps from him. And I think they probably factored in, like, we can't take reps from Saquon Barkley. He's going to be on the field at 99% of the time until he gets hurt. But we could really work into the starting equation here. I think they're elevating their game because they know they could win that job long term. So it's fun. I love good position battles. I think this running back, by committee approach, some people think it's the worst running back group in football. I say they're just scratching the surface. I think there's legitimate potential there to be a very underrated group. Same thing with the receivers, by the way. Wandale only had 1 reception for 13 yards. That's going to change. Like, Neighbors got 33.3% of the targets from Daniel Jones, but that was scripted. They're going to start doubling Neighbors at some point. They're going to take him out of the equation. They're going to force other people to beat him, Daniel Jones to beat them without using Neighbors as the primary piece. Wandale's going to be a big part of that. So I'm excited to see how he continues his growth and development there, especially Hyatt and Slayton. Slayton had a gorgeous route. I know you probably saw that video, but Slayton's a legitimately good player. And Hyatt, he had a couple moments, had a really nice one-handed catch. This receiver group is going to get better as the season progresses. I view them becoming a very nice unit for this team, and I think a lot of people are underrating both the running backs and the receivers right now.
Yeah, I'm with you. I've praised the wide receivers endlessly all summer long, and I'm really excited by everything we've seen from them. And I agree with you. I think this running back group, the committee approach that they're taking, they have some talent. Maybe it's not flashy top-end talent, but they're scratching the surface of their potential, and the potential is absolutely there. So it's been a fun first 2 preseason games. It's going to be really exciting to watch this third and final one against the New York Jets. And obviously, we're going to keep updating you on everything about this team during practice, during the preseason, all of that stuff right here on Fireside Giants. So make sure to leave a like if you enjoyed this episode. Subscribe to the channel if you're new. Ring the bell so you don't miss an episode, and comment your thoughts down below in the comment section. If you're listening on Apple or Spotify, please make sure to leave us a 5-star review, and go ahead and follow us on all of our social media channels at Fireside Giants. Without further ado, we'll catch you all on the next one. Have a good one, and let's go Giants.
perfect.